Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this service on St. George's Day and Shakespeare's birthday. Probably even more important. This service is coming from Burley and Wharfedale, and it is being led and it has been put together by members of the church congregation. We have heard about you, God of all power. You made the world out of kindness, creating order out of confusion. You made each one of us in your own image. Your fingerprint is on every soul. We're going to begin this morning by singing 297, Christ is Alive.
Lord, as we try to build our lives today, a few bricks at a time, help us to build it on reality, to face the present with the courage only you can give. It's tempting now and then when life's a little rough. We try to keep it in perspective, Lord, to look behind, imagine life was easier, the grass greener than it is today. So tempting, Lord, to let nostalgia rule, to play the programs that tell us life was better then and try to turn our backs on the now. Lord, help us face the day. Help us to seize the time and shake it till the joy it holds spills out and fills our lives. Help us to sense your presence on the road. And in those moments when we seem alone, give us the faith that says you're there. Lord, you gave your disciples the prayer for them to shape their lives around. We have that prayer, and we too will share it. We say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen.
The lectionary theme, and the theme that we picked up on for this service, is the road to Emmaus. You're going to see two different versions of the road to Emmaus now. First of all, the one that is presented by Saddleback Kids. It's a cartoon series which is really liked by lots of people, and particularly quite a number in this church. And that will be followed by a drama that involves Adrian as Jesus and Julian and myself as the two disciples on the road. So first of all, we will have Saddleback Kids. Thank you, Chris.
I'm not saying that I don't believe the stories, but I don't see how Jesus could just come back to life. Seems impossible.
Well, they do say, and they are 100% sure that they saw Jesus.
Well, they do seem very convincing, but I'm not sure. I just want to see him again.
Well, yes, me too.
You both seem a little sad. Is everything okay?
Well, we are a little sad. We were just talking about our friend Jesus.
Who? Jesus? I'm not sure I know who you mean.
Have you not heard about Jesus? Everyone's talking about him, the miracle maker.
I mean, he was amazing. He healed people, he fed people, and most importantly, he seemed to love everybody.
But why are you so sad?
Well, actually, they sent him to die for no reason.
But some friends went 3 days later to the tomb where they buried him, and an angel told them he wasn't there and that he'd come back to life.
That sounds like good news.
Well, if it was true, then it would be. But we can't be sure. We haven't seen him.
But the Bible did say this would happen. It's all part of a great plan.
The plan? Oh, you better tell us more then.
Why don't I explain it to you as we head to Emmaus? Oh. There's a lot of ground to cover.
I think it's this way.
It's a long way. Actually, about 7 miles.
I think we go along this path here now.
This one here now, yes.
Yes. Sorry.
After you, stranger. Oh, home at last.
But this can't be the end already. Do you want to come in and share some more of it with us over something to eat?
Of course, I love to eat and chat with friends. Father, thank you for this bread.
What? Jesus? How did we not recognise you?
It is you. Yeah. It is all true. You have come back to life.
You are right, I am back. Now go and tell everyone the good news that Jesus is alive.
Jesus is alive. You can have the third piece. We didn't know how to do the disappearing bit, so I'm sorry we couldn't get Adrian to go up in a puff of smoke. However, we will sing a hymn. Some of you might be familiar with it. If you aren't, you will pick it up, he said. It's Singing the Faith 308 on the journey to Emmaus.
The Gospel reading comes from Luke chapter 24, verses 13 to 25. I think these words are getting quite familiar to us today. Now, on that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all the things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it was just as the women had said, but they didn't see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared." Thanks be to God.
Two meditations now. There'll be a pause in the centre just to have quietness. You're one of the two disciples walking home to Emmaus. You were walking west from Jerusalem into the bright golden glow of the setting sun. The road is dusty and winds along the brown hills that hide Emmaus from your view. There are other people on the road. There are a lot of people on the road. They are busy with their own thoughts, as you are with yours. Long shadows undulate over the rocky ground. There are villagers driving their donkeys back from market, where they've been selling to pilgrims up for the Passover. There are merchants too, in long, straggling caravans, making for their first night's camp on their journey to the Mediterranean coast. A small squad, a cohort of Roman soldiers tramp along, sweating heavily in their body armour, the sun glinting dully on the metal. Their song interrupts your thoughts briefly. Then they're gone. They are walking much faster than you are. It's been a strange, eventful day after the enforced quiet of the Sabbath. You'd been mourning then, finding it hard to come to terms with the death of Jesus. His body had been hurriedly bundled into the tomb before the Sabbath time began. Now, you are trying to get to grips with this tale that some women have brought back from the garden. They'd gone early. They had found the tomb empty. And they'd come back with a story of angels. Grief does do unpredictable things to people. You really don't know whether to believe what you've heard or not. And your thoughts go round in circles as you talk about it and listen about it. Preoccupied as you are, you hardly notice the traveller who has just been gently walking a little faster than you and has caught up with you. You might have given him a curt, sharp answer to his first question. But he draws you out, and you find it helps to talk, to go through the last details of the last few days. He seems to know much more about the Messiah than you thought. And he has the scriptures at his fingertips. There's something familiar about him, some strange affinity between you, as though you've met before, but it's turning dusk and you're not quite sure. And as you near the village and turn down the familiar alley to the courtyard gate, you ask him in. You hadn't meant to, the words just came out. You hadn't meant to give the invitation, but somehow you'd like him to stay. Water to wash hands and feet is quickly ladled from the pot by the door. The table's laid with bread and some wine. And your guest doesn't wait for you as host to offer food. He takes the bread, says grace, breaks it, shares it, and in that moment, you know who it is. It's Jesus. And he disappears. Cleopas and his companion were living the past. He was a prophet, they said. All their grief and disappointment were held in that word, was. Whatever their hopes and aspirations had been, they'd all gone with the death of Jesus. We had hoped, they said, but not anymore. Their world was in ruins. Now we know very little about Cleopas and the unnamed companion with him, other than this story. We don't even know whether the anonymous one was a man or a woman. It's often assumed that they were two men, but it doesn't say so. It could well have been a man and his wife going home to Emmaus. Because you know, that would explain the ease with which they invited Jesus to stay with them. The woman with her husband, and she was the one in charge of the food and the wine and knew how tidy her house was. The ease with which they invited Jesus to stay with them. We don't know how they came to know Jesus or how close they had been to him. But the connection must have been reasonably close, because at the end of the story, when they went back to Jerusalem, they knew exactly where to go to. They knew where the leading disciples were, and they were able to go straight to them in that safe place and tell them what had happened. We can imagine them on the road to Emmaus, preoccupied with the apparent catastrophe of the crucifixion, their minds full of regrets If only. If only Jesus hadn't come to Jerusalem for the Passover. If only he'd been a bit more tactful with the priests and the money changers in the temple. If only he hadn't gone into the garden after supper. If only someone had realized what Judas was up to. And now it was all done and gone. There could be no retracing of steps. But they had no thoughts about what lay ahead. Yet as Jesus began to walk with them, things started to make sense. Slowly and gently, he showed them the significance of what had happened. He helped them put the past together in a way that they could build on. And by the time they'd reached Emmaus, they were ready for the future. A future that began around the table with him, their eyes opened and their faith renewed. And it was a future which led them, and leads us as well, not to a setting sun at the end of the day, but to the dawn of a new beginning. We'll sing now, and we'll be joining in the band recording of Jesus Be the Centre, hymn number 447.
So we pray. Forgive us, Lord,
For all the times we've walked through life with our heads down, our vision limited to the immediate. Confined within the pressures of our day, problems press in, expand, prevent the recognition that we all desire. We find it hard to look beyond the obvious. Our minds are so sealed it almost breaks imagination's fingernails to prise it open to the wonder of your presence. Yet still you walk with us, each step a revelation of your love, a gentle leading onto boundaries of understanding we've not yet crossed. Have patience, Lord. Help us to see your hand at work in shaping our lives and make your nearness a delight that turns our mourning into joy. Amen.
Before we sing our final hymn, I know it's somewhat early, but we've kept it brief and succinct. I'd like to thank, and Adrian would as well, as we put the service together, everyone who has been involved with the prayers, with readings, with drama, and the stewards and Chris on the desk. Thank you very much. Our final hymn can only be 313, Thine Be the Glory. Thank you. May God, who is present in the sunrise and the nightfall, and in the crossing of the sea, and in the walking of a footpath, guide your feet as you go. May God, who is with you when you sit and when you stand, encompass you with love and lead you by the hand. May God, who knows your path and the places where you rest, be with you in your waiting, be your good news for sharing, and lead you in the way that is everlasting. Amen. Thank you.